Let's talk about the empath and self-esteem. Not all empaths, but the vast majority of empaths, INFJ, highly sensitive people, HSP, and other neurodivergents will struggle with self-esteem, predominantly based on their hypersensitivity to social standards and social norms, expectations, and the way they are perceived and the way they experience the world. But we're going to dive deeper to really break it down and find solutions as to how you can manage your self-esteem, if not elevate your self-esteem. My name is Vital Germain. I'm a life coach and 7-time author, including the book Pink is the Color of Empathy. The psychological foundation of this video is based on the teachings of both Alfred Adler and Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. Most people don't know who Alfred Adler is. He's the one that society did not really learn about. He was forgotten. He constantly lived in the shadows of Freud and Carl Jung. Now, fundamentally, what separates Alfred Adler and Sigmund Freud is one basic premise. And that premise is where they place their focus in terms of human psychology. Freud emphasized the influence of unconscious drive, particularly sexual, and the male drive of aggression. And Alfred Adler, in stark contrast, focused more on an individual's striving for superiority driven by feelings of inferiority in childhood. So the empath self-esteem journey begins in childhood. The odds are that you had a childhood that lacked the level of support and encouragement from your parents that was sufficient to make you feel self-confident, to make you feel worthy of being loved, of being successful, of achievement, of self-actualization. Now, this doesn't mean that this is a guarantee. This is not a one-size-fits-all, but for the most part, empaths are prone to experience either abuse or some form of neglect, whether it means being the black sheep or simply by default of being different. But as they go through childhood and they lack a level of external validation from parents, as a means of compensation, what's going to happen is this. That child, in order to compensate and feel a level of superiority, or at least achieve a level of superiority, which boosts self-confidence, they will do several things. They will seek external validation and almost become highly dependent on external validation to fuel their self-worth. The problem is, not everybody is empathetic. Most people are preoccupied with their own self-worth, that the self-validation, in particular in this modern world of social media and dopamine fixes, the self-worth comes in the form of likes and popularity. But the empath, by default, is more of a loner, an introvert, and lacks a large scale in terms of a circle of friends. So their encouragement, their self-esteem, their validation does not come externally. So what do they have to do? They have to become either high achievers to gain a library of proof, of evidence that they are worthy. They become high achievers. They do well in society. They push and they're motivated to achieve to compensate for that lack of self-esteem. If they don't become high achievers, then they can become paralyzed with what Adler refers to as self-guarding behaviors. What does that mean? It means that we will, I put myself in this category as an empath. I have struggled with low self-esteem. I found ways to manage it, which I'm going to share with you today. But we can become paralyzed by telling ourselves, well, the reason why I'm not successful, the reason why I'm not this is because there was a curse placed on me at birth. It's because of all these external factors. This is why I can't self-actualize. Not because of me. It's got nothing to do with me. It's all these things around me. I'm not tall enough. I'm not good enough. And this softens the blow of not being worthy. But as it softens the blow, we become less motivated. We sit back and play victim in some ways blaming it on everything else except the self. So ask yourself, which one of these two, and you've got to be brutally honest, are you the high achiever who, in order to minimize your pain, you create evidence to prove that you are worthy? Or have you tended to place blame on external factors, removing accountability and removing responsibility? Neither one is particularly better or worse. It's just you becoming self-aware, and through self-awareness, you can either change those behaviors, change your attitude, or stay calm and carry on if you are getting the results that you need. Now, here's the thing about either option. Both are based on a level of comparison. And this is one of the biggest detriments to any basic human being, let alone the empath. We compare, even if it's on a subconscious level. Now, in terms of comparison, this gets magnified for the empath because of our heightened sensitivity, because of our hypervigilance. We observe and we see and we sense and we know and we feel. So all the facades that are surrounding us, we read through it. So for example, if somebody gives us a fake compliment and we know that it wasn't sincere, we can't absorb that compliment, and therefore it will not elevate our self-esteem because we know that it was empty, if in fact we might view it as a blatant lie. So we're too aware to become a fool of fake compliments, and society is filled with fake compliments. When you go to networking events, everybody is either talking about themselves or they're trying to elevate you by interest that something you have, they want to obtain it. And the way that they're going to get it is to be nice, is to be kind. Nice is the manipulative version of kind. So people are going to be nice to you. People are going to tell you things. They want favor. Either it's because of your status, it's your connections, but they want a part of you, so they're going to elevate you in a superficial way. But you as an empath are aware of that. So it's kind of a double wound. It hurts because you know that it's fake, and because you know that it's fake, it impacts your self-esteem. So the biggest factor, the biggest platform, the strongest solution to start minimizing your lack of high self-esteem is to stop the comparison. You've got to become hyper-focused with you and your growth journey without comparison. You focus on who you were, where you came from, what you've incrementally achieved, and who you are becoming. It's your journey to travel, nobody else's. Stop comparing yourself with others. We are 5% of the population. So comparing yourself to others is an exercise in self-destruction, self-sabotage. Stop comparing the self to others, which means your self-worth, your validation has to come from within. You have to dig deep and connect with the truest version of you, potentially your inner child. The most imaginative, the most free, the most hopeful, the most ambitious, the most naive version of you that believes that everything and anything is possible. And this is the inner voice you've got to connect with, not the logical adult version filled with comparison. The innocent child just preoccupied with play. And the child, when he's playing in the imaginative brain state, theta state, the highest level of brain activity we can possibly get, equal to being in a meditative state. But that's you connecting with you. And as you go along your journey, register each achievement, celebrate it, acknowledge it, and build on each and every achievement to boost your self-esteem. And focus on the journey, not the destination. Focus on the journey, focus on the lessons, your growth, not the destination. If you start focusing on the destination, you will by default start comparing yourself again, looking at those who have already perceived to have achieved and arrived at their destination. Your destination is different. Focus on your journey. And this ties in now with a quote by Viktor Frankl that it's about mindset. All these things that I'm sharing with you, they come to you having to make a choice, a shift in mindset, a decision that my attitude is going to become this. An attitude is incredibly powerful. Viktor Frankl said this about attitude. The last of human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. If you're feeling of a low self-esteem, you've got to tell yourself, I need to shift my attitude, which includes perception. I need to shift my attitude. Oh, I realize that I'm falling into comparison. I realize that I feel empty. I lack support. To add to this level of challenge for the empath, even in adulthood, more reason to go inward. Our circle of friends is usually small, which means we're not going to get the same level of external validation from our peers because we have very few peers. There will be very few people applauding us at the finish line. You have to become your own motivational entity. Inward, inward, inward. So if you can put all those learnings together in a package and stay focused and implement what's called Kaizen, it's a Japanese philosophy. It's a business philosophy that applies across the board. Kaizen, and it means incremental growth done consistently over time. Again, it's not about the destination. It's the journey. Incremental growth, register the growth, celebrate the growth, and let it boost your self-esteem that you then can self-actualize.